Oh my good. Wow. Peeves is in no mood. There we go. Hello, Beetle. Thank you for popping in tonight. Oh, goodness. Well, we're also going to be. There's like play on the Spotify because it's just really crank. So it's a little easier. Zero play on the Spotify levels, but how was your Friday night, Beetle? Thank you for hopping in. Gonna be checking in on Mario over at Friggin' Nerds every once in a while because he's doing a 24-hour for Extra Life. So we'll be checking in on him every once in a while, just like, you know, seeing whether or not he's actually awake. Cause we're doing our part for the charity stream, keeping Mario awake. We're the West Coasters, at least myself. We gotta keep this man awake. And might be just a super short, like I'll do one decoration and then just go and raid the Mario. And just be like, stay awake, stay awake. Who knows? Who knows? Hi, Chris. Chris is over here doing double duty on the streams, like constant vigilance. We'd love to see it. Whew. Let's go. So Steph sent me the baobab and then I moved all of my bamboo. I have this lovely little forest starting to happen like next to my house and I'm actually quite pleased with it. Also, the fake trees are nice because I can move them without eating fruit. So, you know, pluses all around. Went to Mystery Island that was in Sakura season. All right, let's get to these silly cutscenes. Go checking in. Cutscenes because they take forever. This man, look at him with his copy. It was a couple of weeks ago, and now it's gonna get stuck in my head again. I saw a clip of somebody inviting a coffee truck to Suga's it was a BTS clip of someone inviting a coffee or like purchasing a coffee truck to rent on Suga's Teatime hello Sean music video, and then they were singing coffee truck, that's your little coffee truck. And now like I had that stuck in my head for like an entire day, and I'm gonna get that stuck in my head again inevitably, and I don't even mind about it. Coffee truck, coffee truck. How's everybody's Friday? Mine's pretty okay. I took my rye old fashioned, which was borderline Sazerac, and dumped lemon sorbet into it. Oh, it's such a vibe. Dashaletta is good. Lottie needs to see me. All right, who do we have? It's such a vibe. It's so much good. Oh. Spike was one of like my super early visitors. He's like punk rock. Oh, I miss Spike. I really do miss Spike. He was such a sweetie. Like such a great like grumpy villager. Oh my goodness. He is so he's a grumpy villager who desperately wants to be a jock, so he's got like the gold shirt. He had like a shaker in his and he's like just Micro Patch was bugs and like other fixes. There was a couple of like little bugs. A couple of bugs were like that made like Happy Home Designer unplayable. They got those patched up right away. So yeah, it was just like minor bugs and stuff. I have questions. Why is there a rat in a lab coat here? I can send you the YouTube video if you would like, but Okay, they're so... Oh. Alright, I didn't actually check in on this camera. Can you please? Okay, he's playing Forza right now. Let me... Oh, shoot. Has anybody done a stretch in a while? I'm gonna a stretch. Lee requested, we check in, we do the thing. YouTube, I know it's the waste. Audia's excited to. Oh, excuse you, Vase. I'm sorry. I know you don't like YouTube. You're good. Do you see this? Do you see this? And right next to it is a freaking tablet. Both of these things are beautiful. Also, the monitor's pretty cool. Okay, we're gonna blow all of our money again today. I literally bought everything in that shop. I even got the die. Did I need to get the die? No. Did I get the die anyway? Yes, I did. Because it was 580 Poke, and it was worth it. All right. I mean, okay, we didn't see what Spike wanted. We gotta see what these people want. I know what Maple wants, the little brown teddy bear, because she shows up on everybody and she just wants teddy bears everywhere. And she's adorable. Oh, okay. Yeah, plush bears. Stylish big city life. Seaside photo shoot. Tea time. We can do tea time. Okay. Concerns with this man? But his name is Petri. Are you kidding me right now? I did not know that there was a white rat. Okay. It appears I have misjudged. This may be female. We're just going to say they now, just to be safe. Street, I found your alter ego. Where's Street? Sean! I found a white rat named Petri. She's blonde. I don't know what's happening, and my game is freaking out again. Straight help. Oh no, now this is me designing Street's favorite place to be. And the first fucking thing we're doing. Name the rat book. I can't name it. I can't name it, but oh. Okay, hang on. You miss your rats? Oh. Sakura Mountain? I feel like the river is... I'm going with my gut. I'm going with my gut because I can't see what your response is yet. Got the little coffee drink next to her. You see this? This is my street. So I cannot for the life of me get the camera angle that I'm happy with in this situation. I don't know why. It is on. I'm gonna I'm gonna kill Peeps here in a second. Won't friggin' focus. Is her catchphrase. Okay, Teatime Terrace. You ready for this? Do I know exactly what to fucking do? Yes, I do. I understand. Have space? Don't tell me that. Never tell me the odds. Never tell me. Maybe if I had pigment. Maybe. Custom skin, right though? Rude. No, we're just designing Street's vacation home because I can, because now this is me understanding the assignment. Okay? Am I wrong though? Fresh oranges and coconuts. This in tea olive bushes. Understand. Fucking assignment. Lightly oxidized. I don't know. Understand the assignment. Listen, we know exactly what is happening right here. This is wanton fantasy fulfillment. And we don't design an FF or team vacation home. Hell yeah. This wifey. Thank you for the bits, by the way. Appreciate you. Gonna give you one of these. I think we can side ends. Other than hang on. Outdoor patio for when we feel like being outside, but not necessarily are going to enjoy it. And no, not brown. What are you crazy? Understood the assignment. Did I stutter? Did I stutter? I understood these. Lord woman. Okay, hang on. I know it comes in gray. There's a whole set that's gray. Hell, it's got a green cushion. What I say? Happy place. Happy place. And if I do... Oh, is it just fogging at this hour? That's unfortunate. Seriously? When is it? What? Yeah. Okay, this is the preferred by the customer, but here, hang on. Hold up. I need to get some light on the, just like a tiny bit of light on the outside, just to make it feel. No, those things are freaking huge. On. Get there. Yep. There it is. Mm-hmm. All right. Whoops. Get out of the chair. What are you doing? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Alrighty. Tea time. Here we go. Here we go. All right, what does she have? Ha! Whoop. Bird. Oof. Parquet. Kinda, sort of, maybe. Okay, now we're gonna move on to rugs for. Are those Jamie Dodgers? Hang on. Thumbprint jam cookie. No. Doctor Who taught me. Those are Jamie Dodgers. No matter if some of them are orange marmalade, they're still Jamie Dodgers, so. Fuck it. Okay. Need. Shit, here we go. The blue one. Oh, but wait though. Time for slip. Okay, this will be up on the VODs later. You can see the masterpiece. There. So you should go sleep. Poor insomniac. Oh. She doesn't have counter table. Does she really want... Wait. That's cool though. What's the customization? Oh no. Okay, I love you. Hopefully, maybe. Really no promises. Thank you, Straight. Appreciate it.
Do it.
Straight. God damn, that scared me. Where's the friggin' fireplace? What the? Spoopy ghost. Look. See this shit? This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Where's the fireplace that I usually get? Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. Ooh. And I oop. And I oop. And I oop. Not yet. I haven't gotten there yet. You know, we'll get there. It'll be fine. Okay. Bye. Oh, now we're just plotting. We're just plotting. Just, you know, especially after last night's cursed build, now we're just plotting, just like there it is. Epic build. Of fireplace. Where's the monstera? We need this monstera in here. No, I know how this goes. I know how to do this. Oh, yeah. Again, I understood. The fucking is that? That and then she. Okay, here we go. Oh shoot, okay, hang on. Nothing says I am a normal human. I know we need to see what the bottom of that cave are. No, it's killing me. See, there's always that problem where I'm like, I'm good. Like, Animal Crossing is fun. And then I get stuff like this. And I'm like, can I have that IRL? Can I have this exact counter? But in my house. They need the real life version of this now. Just in my fucking. Is that okay with everybody? Is that okay? Everybody. Tap this exact thing. This is gonna turn out like super great. I'm already like super happy with this. Whatever happens of this is going to be fan-freaking-tastic. Okay. Hang on. It's gonna be stack of books. They have to be like the old ones though. Hang on. Oh wait, no. Sure. Yeah. Do I have the scattered papers yet? No, I don't. Oh, I so wish I had scattered papers. Oh, hang on. We have to give her a lappy toppy. No, we're gonna deck her out. We're gonna deck her out. There we go. Except also because aesthetic. I need another one of that color specifically. And then like, okay, kitchen counter needs to happen. One kitchenette in a different. That's as good as we can get here. Pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, what? There wasn't a lamp that the. I still don't like the rattan sets. My favorite. Okay, do that and the lamp. I feel like this needs like another running board type item. Yeah, like another running board type. Just give her a theremin. She would not protest the theremin. Like I'm gonna be 100% honest. Does this come? It does come black. These are in question. These are important questions. We are asking, does it come in black? Answer is thank God yes. Does this come in? Comes in brown. Okay. Need one of D's. Definitely need one of D's. Hell or high water, we need one of D's. We also need hold up. Need to oh, thank goodness we can put more stuff on there. Okay. You mean? Okay, we'll put this over here. That's good, but then what happens? We know the goings on. Okay, hold up. Does it come in black? I'll play with it. See how things go. Yeah. There's a lot of focus here. Focusing. Doesn't it? This one that has the better colorway? Which one has the better colorways? This one has a better colorway then. I mean, look at this. Wall shit. We have to do wall shit now. Hang on. Okay, and then what can we make the hanging sign look like though? Yes. she's reasonably happy at the warning sign that we just put. Look at this. If this is where the science happens. The warning. Living room. Mid-century. Nope. Living room is mid-century modern. This is how we roll. We're not even gonna just mid-century modern. Not even an issue. Over that, we'll have a bare Einstein bulb. In the copper, thank you. Rude of you to assume anything else. Give her a couple of those. There. Entry light. What are we doing here? Switch views again. Pink, yellow. Birds is. Boom. Kitchen light. To be. Nope. Ugh, I gotta stop doing that. Here we go. Kitchen light's here. We're gonna throw that sucker. Well, then kitchen light. Is there? Oh, she keeps hitting that button. Is there a good chandelier? Tell me there's a good chandelier. Silver's good. The red. Oof. Ooh. Mm. Oof. See that? I mean, Street, I'm gonna have to clip this and like, do you see this? Did she or did she not nail it? I think she nailed it. I'm just throwing it out there. I think she nailed it. Okay. Good Lord. I mean, I think that's it. I think that's all we can do. I think that's that. Oh, God. Can you get through? You can get through. Oh, thank goodness. You would like it in your basement? Oh, thanks, Beetle. Oh, I'm glad you like it. I mean, I don't know. I'm very okay with it. Oh, wait, no. I need to put something there on the fireplace. Something has to go there on the fireplace. Like, oh, okay, hang on. We've got some options. Dead fish. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Viewing, thinking the Nova lamp is cool. We're reviewing, we're thinking, processing. Oh wait, the planties. Terrarium. Throw in a terrarium right here. There we go. Huh? I mean, not bad. Might change the floor now that we've gotten here. Now that we've done all of this hard work. Because the client, like, these are what the client wants. The tile, it feels so sterile. I understand that, but what I want to do, you see, shoot, I don't have access to my full library. Shoot. So like that is the best I can. Maybe. Oh, rug for the kitchen. Kitchen, just to denote that this is in fact the kitchen. It's needs something small-ish. Oh, there we go. There we go. That works. Yeah. Okay, but then her lab has to have something like silly. Exercise mat. Hang on, thinking. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There it is. Oh, and then something by the buffets, something narrow. Boom. Ooh. Oh no, it has just disapparated underneath this. Oh no. Why did you do that, Animal Crossing? Okay. Hopefully it wasn't like full, so I didn't have to move things around too awful much, but feeling ish. Maybe something. The deck. Oh, the deck rug. There we go. Deck rug. We'll get. Hang on. We'll get a. There. Yeah. A little better. No rugs in kitchen. No carpet. No rugs in kitchen. Psychopaths do that. Don't do that here. I mean, it looks pretty great. I definitely need multiple. Wait, I have 2 tea trays. Oh wait, and I think I can. I can. No, the silver's good. The silver's good. Hang on, there's 2 of those things. So, client wants what for foodstuffs? Like we delivered on. Did we? Oh, don't have the Jammy Dodgers. Hang on, Jammy Dodgers. Dodgers are very. There it is. There we go. There. Little tweaks here and there. I'm very happy. I'm very pleased with all of this. I would legitimately live here. Because I know I would live here. I also know that Misty would. You'd live here. Understood the assignment. Done. There it is. Boom. Madam. It is ready. Of course I did it. Of course I did it. Here comes the montage. Here it comes. Hang on, I gotta... It legit actually looks really good. pulls out a donut. Hides behind his computer. Okay, there you go. I mean, that was just adorable. All of that. Doing pictures. Here we go. Photo shoot time. Yes, we are taking pictures. Hello, have you met me? Put all this work into this. Of course we're taking pictures. What are you, crazy? Taking pictures. Okay. First, everybody gets dressed. Hang on, hang on. Why don't you get pants? I don't understand this. Oh, look at her with her gray smoky eye. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Petri. What? Look at her with that gray smoky eye. Should the fucking look at her. Look at her. We popping off. Hold up. Hang on. Then also understands the fucking assignment. Yes, but shoes. The loafers are fine, but can I have my... Okay, those are... No, is that the closest I can get to boot? I'm kidding. Just have to go with... May just have to go with that and just be okay with it. Oh, the satchels. I'm sorry, but can you just... Oh. Okay. Headwear. Head freaking wear. It's a look. We're gonna go with it. So far, please. Wait. Seriously? Seriously? I mean, I just want to wear... just want to wear boots. And those are the only boots that they're letting me wear, and I don't like it. I want my boots. I got right now? Yeah, that's alright. I'm gonna go with it. Oh shoot, I didn't. Luckily, I remembered what I put on, so... Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna pick everybody up and put them where they need to be. Rish. Oh, I can. Whoa, bring amiibo. Can't put me there? No, that's it. There we go. We're done here. We are done here, ma'am. I have, excuse me, I have, this is, I'm gonna just talk very closely to you. Can I? Oh. I can't talk to you from, okay. Why can I not? What's happening? Call freaking, there we go. I'm heading back. You're done. You're done. You're done and dusted. That's it. Oh. Mm-hmm. Went perfectly. What are you talking about? Right. Oh, do I get a raise? A raise. Ooh. Okay. Change the work clothes. Buy all the things. If they don't have enough what? I got credit? Probably a good thing, Wardell. I'm gonna let you know. Not that bad for an iPad, let me tell you. What is this even with like the weird, is this a massage table? Exam table. Cataloging it anyway. All right, let's go change the work outfits. Oof. At 1:15. Yikes. Big yikes. Well, I'm glad you got that done. That's super exciting. Oh, the parka though. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. Cute. Ooh, the snake skin though. Ooh. Not for me. No, we're gonna go back to these. Isn't it? That's cute. D-U-N. We're being up since 5. Go to bed. Go use the sleep. What you doing? Go use the sleep. Now we're gonna stick with the hairpin. Right. Do I get the satchels? Yes, I do. Not that one. This one. Okay, should. Ooh, we get some Oxfords. Oh, business shoes. Very business. So many 10 business. Oh. Ooh, the flash of green. Ooh, or the flash of orange underneath. There it is. Very Edith Head, making the, you know, the suit and the pants and the coat, everything just like the same color, but bright pink socks. Actually, no, that wasn't Edith Head. That was, sorry, that was Fred Astaire, who needed to wear bright pink socks because he was a dancer. But Edith Head did not like that because she wanted the socks and the pants and the shoes to all be the same color, so it all flowed. Anyway, getting my vintage movie trivia mixed up in my head. Excuse me. We're going a little Fred Astaire. Did I save that? No, that was my work outfit. We're good. And on that note, it is late for me. I'm gonna do some like not interesting stream grinding stuff, but we are gonna go and raid Mario, and we have to go and give Mario love because he is doing a extra live stream, and this is a 24-hour stream. This is very, very early where he is, so we gotta go in, we gotta come through, we gotta show some love because these 24-hour streams are not easy. This man needs some support. So come through even if you're lurking. It's okay to lurk. We're here for that. Mario's doing a good thing, so hang out and watch for charity because we love. So we get to raid friggin' nerds. We never get to do this. Okay, he's playing Rocket League, so we're gonna go over there and we're gonna go hang out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I know it's a short stream, but also we want to go and support Mario because doing this is hard. And so here we go. Let's raid. Follow through. Whoop. That. Starting raid. 3 viewers. Everybody ready? Here we go. Let go, let go, let go.